Are you sitting comfortably? Then we'll begin.
Saturday, January 10th. Some weeks feel like history moves an inch. This week, it moved a mile. Lines that were stable for decades suddenly shifted. Alliances strained, warnings sharpened, and one of the world's most dangerous regimes may be closer to collapse than anyone expected. While Ukraine keeps fighting for its survival, something else is happening. Far from the front, cracks are opening in places that were supposed to be unbreakable. Systems built on fear are starting to crack, and dictators who once felt untouchable are being captured. Across the ocean, Europe heard a message it hoped it would never hear, a message that changes how the continent thinks about security, about Russia, and about the future of NATO itself. And here, at home, a single moment caught on camera has ignited a national argument about truth, power, and what we're willing to accept when the government pulls the trigger. Today, we're going to walk through all of it, the pressure points, the fractures, the warnings, and the decisions being made behind closed doors that will shape the next decade. Welcome to Ukraine Update. I'm Slavie. Let's say hello to the panel today. Nick, hello, welcome back. How are you doing today?
I'm doing very well, thank you. How about yourself?
Getting through it. every day is complete madness.
Yeah,
in the news.
there are a few things going on, as you pointed out on your intro there. It's delighted to be here. So thank you guys for having me.
Thank you for coming. Johnny, how are you doing?
Doing great. The good news is a lot of dictatorship are splintering and fracturing around the world, and Ukraine seems to be in the middle of this as a good positive force. The bad news, it turns out I'm living in 1930s Germany right now. So it's a hit and miss.
Totally. Feel you on that. Commander Macmillan, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. Looking forward to a very interesting session.
Yeah.
Dick, how are you doing?
I am lost, befuddled, and absolutely perplexed at what's going on around me. But I'm in the mood to do some discussing about it and hopefully, find a gem here or there on Ukraine's favor as we get through some, because it would be nice to end with something positive. How about you there? Where do you even want to take us on this journey?
Well, before we dive in, make sure that you guys are subscribed on every platform we're streaming on. It keeps this work alive. It pushes the truth further. Excuse me, my voice. And can you finish?
I'll drink. I'll drink for you, Slavie.
Yeah.
I'll parch my throat so you feel better.
I think Slavie's had some protest time out there yelling and screaming at people by the sounds of it. There is a lot going on in the world. We'll do our best to make it a Ukraine update, but there's events going on that do affect Ukraine. So, expect it, very much so. But maybe Slavie's ready to try that again.
All right. Am I? Okay, let's try this again. Guys, please subscribe and share and like the stream on all the platforms we're streaming on. And don't forget to drop your questions in the chat. We're watching them and make sure to answer them. All right, so let's get into the news.
Yeah.
So Russia launched one of its largest winter attacks on Ukraine, combining hundreds of drones and dozens of missiles in coordinated overnight barrage. As part of the strike, Russia fired its new Oreshnik intermediate-range ballistic missile, marking the second confirmed use of this system in this war. The Oreshnik struck infrastructure in the Lviv region, roughly 60 kilometers from the Polish border and far from any active front line. Ukrainian officials recovered missile fragments and confirmed the weapon was the Oreshnik system. Russia claimed the launch was retaliation for a Ukrainian attack on the residence used by Putin, but no such attack occurred, and no evidence has ever been presented. Ukrainian and Western officials dismissed the Kremlin's claim as fabricated pretext to justify escalation. The stated Russian target was critical infrastructure, but the strike did not hit any major military facilities or alter the battlefield situation. The real impact was damage to civilian adjacent infrastructure and added pressure on Ukraine's energy system during winter. President Zelensky condemned the Oreshnik strike as a direct threat to European security because the missile landed close to NATO territory.
I think we need to point that out and emphasize it because the real target of that missile was not Ukraine. That missile was fired specifically to send a message to NATO.
Absolutely. This was especially for Europe because just a few days before that, there was a meeting between European leaders, and the American envoys as well, about the peace deal, which apparently went really well and they got a lot of work done. But let's discuss the Oreshnik if anybody wants to comment on the Oreshnik before we talk about this meeting.
I have a question for Commander on it. As we have heard, the missile was not outfitted with a nuclear warhead. It can be. It's an ICBM, but it can also just have a conventional warhead or just be
It's actually an IRBM, but yeah.
Thank you, sir. My question is this. My understanding is that they're very difficult for Russia to make these kinds of weapons right now because those require complex computer components, which are in fact on the sanctions list. So if they did this simply as a warning, do they have many more that they can use? Is this a sign that they are easily getting around those sanctions, or just that to them the warning was worth it enough that they're willing to use the very few of these that they have? But that's what surprised me was the sanctions.
Yeah, I think it's a case of the warning was considered important enough to use one of a limited number of weapons.
Okay.
And you have to look at it within the context of, and this is going to branch us into another area of interest for today, which is the whole thing about Russia's shadow fleet that moves all their sanctioned oil, and the fact that there have been so many incidents that are corroborated with the movement of ships from the shadow fleet through the Baltic and drone overflights of sensitive European military and civilian infrastructure sites. And that's important because I think the U.S. has now taken down the 5th of tankers belonging to this shadow fleet. And what's curious is the Russians are making all sorts of harumph, but the biggest thing they're emphasizing is they want the crews from those sea ships back.
Oh.
For a country that doesn't give a rat's ass about its people, it's willing to send these guys in human wave assaults against Ukrainian positions. Why are they suddenly so concerned about the fate of a couple of seamen? Well, probably because it correlates into that whole thing with the drone overflights.
Right.
And if these guys get questioned and reveal further information, it confirms and will really embarrass Russia when that confirmation starts hitting mainstream news about, yeah, there's a concerted program on the part of the Russians to do this, to intimidate NATO and Europe. So that's, I think, why they're so sensitive about the seizure of these ships, is they don't want that information coming out. At this point, a lot of people, we here on this channel, for example, have said that it's probably, but the confirmation isn't there.
Right.
But if they get this confirmation from interrogating these crewmen, that changes the ballgame.
If I may, then let me ask you another question, since we're on the Shadow Fleet. I have long had the assumption, and I believe you have as well, that Putin probably has both compromat on Trump and has incentives that he can give him in terms of lending him money through, say, Deutsche Bank, that he doesn't have to pay back. So both the carrot and the stick. And this is one reason why Trump has been so reticent in helping Ukraine in any meaningful way. Yeah. This Shadow Fleet, if I understand correctly, is one of the last remaining lifelines for Russia to get its sanctioned illegal oil out, so that its economy can keep functioning. It's been laying people off. It's been going into its gold reserves in order to make payments. And Trump appears, the 5th. I think you're correct. It's the 5th seizure. All of a sudden, he's been seizing these things, and without them, Russia's, what I understand to be one of their most vital lifelines, is gone. So I have 2 questions for you. One, am I correct that this Shadow Fleet is that important to Russia? And if I am, why is Trump suddenly apparently willing to stand up to Putin?
Okay, so the Shadow Fleet, I believe, is quite important to Russia. As you point out, it's one of the remaining methods they have for moving their petroleum products to try to get revenue to continue to finance the war. Most of the other elements of their economy have kind of just fallen apart in the course of the war, as they strip skilled workers out of factories to go to the front. Shortages of critical components that they need. So going back to the Oreshnik that we started this whole discussion on, that requires components that are not manufactured in Russia. They have to buy them, and those are on the sanctions list. So they can still get them. Don't have any illusion that this is keeping them from getting it, but they have to use basically a black market means of getting those component parts into Russia. That raises the cost. It makes it much more complicated to source them, slows down production lines further, etc. So yeah, the Shadow Fleet is important to keep the war economy going. Why all of a sudden interest from Trump? Is he basically turning his back on his happy handshake deal with Vlad? I couldn't say. I think the one thing that does stand out is the 5 tankers thus far that have been seized all have some connection back to Venezuela.
Yeah.
So I suspect that what this is more of an effort to further isolate Venezuela and force it into complying with his demands. And it's just kind of accidental / incidental that it's Russian associated money that's being impacted.
So if he accidentally helps Ukraine in any way, it's like, oops, sometimes you inadvertently do something good for people. Sorry, didn't mean to.
I don't think this is,
yeah.
I do not think in any way this is I'm trying to help Ukraine. I think it's just a happy coincidence.
Question came in that can tag in here. Cheryl Watley in the chat there. Why did the USA give the Russians back to Russia and not the 11 Ukrainians? And why were there 11 Ukrainians on board in the first place?
That's propaganda. Since we jumped all over the place, let's talk about these ships and present the actual story of what happened. So the United States has now seized 5 Russian-flagged or Venezuela-linked oil tankers since early December as part of a widening blockade targeting sanctioned Venezuelan oil shipments. U.S. officials say that seizures are aimed at dismantling a covert logistics network that has helped Russia and Iran evade sanctions and generate revenue for military operations. On January 7th, U.S. forces intercepted the Marinera, formerly known as Bella 1 in the North Atlantic, after a weeks-long pursuit involving multiple naval and air assets. That same day, U.S. forces also seized the MT Sofia in the Caribbean, accusing the vessel of participating in illicit oil transfers designed to bypass sanctions. On January 9th, the U.S. seized another tanker, the Alina, formerly Minerva M, marking the 5th vessel taken in recent weeks. All 3 ships were part of a larger fleet operating under shell companies, false registries, and altered transporter data to conceal the origin and destination of Venezuelan and Russian oil. U.S. officials say the seizures are part of a coordinated effort to shut down what they described as a ghost fleet of tankers used by Venezuela, Russia, and Iran to move sanctioned oil. The backstory centers Venezuela's role in helping Russia evade sanctions by blending, relabeling, and transporting Russian oil through Venezuelan ports and offshore transfer points. Under Maduro, Venezuela became a key facilitator for Russian oil exports, providing cover for shipments that helped fund Moscow's war effort in Ukraine. So, guys, this is all connected. What's happening in Iran, these ships, everything is so connected. It's very clear.
One of the things you'll note that's interesting, Slavie was pointing out, it was this ship, which formerly was this ship. These ships change names frequently. They change registries frequently. And what's interesting, in some of these cases, just before they know they're about to get boarded, I mean, literally hours before, they change the registry to Russian registry, hoping that that will act as a deterrent, that nobody wants to piss off the Russians.
Right.
But the
I
owner,
do love it, literally on the ocean, they're just like, well, we have a new registry. Hold on, look. We painted on the side. It's Crayola, but it's there. It's a Russian flag.
Yeah, I mean, there's a really good example of how this works in some movie that had Nick Cage in it. I think it's God of War or something like that. He's an arms merchant, and there's one where the ship he's on is about to get boarded. So just before they're boarded, they literally paint new names on the sides and, put up a different flag. And, oh no, we're not the motor vessel Smith. We're the motor vessel Jones. And we're not, Jamaican registry. We're Panamanian registry.
That's actually a great movie. I need to watch it again. But,
yeah,
Commander Macmillan, I have a question for you. Some analysts say that this is actually the most aggressive clash between United States and Russia in ever, pretty much. Would you say that it is?
It is a clash between the U.S. and Russia. Probably we haven't seen something on this level since the U.S. took out a force of Wagner in Syria that tried to attack a U.S. Special Forces camp. The difference is these ships, their connection to Russia is so dubious and tenuous that both sides can use that as plausible deniability to avoid any sense that they've tried to attack the other. And I think that's kind of what's going on is, oh, we didn't know it was Russian registry. Last information we had is you were Panamanian.
That's like somebody changing the color of your wrist pieces when you go to the bathroom.
Yeah, exactly.
I actually love this news for Ukraine because the shadow fleet is something we talked about a lot and something that's really hard to deal with. And Ukraine dealt with it by its sea drones in Black Sea. But here we have basically Trump's military taking out and doing what is really, really beneficial for Ukraine.
Yes.
And this has been brought up, but I just want to emphasize Venezuela's part in Russia evading sanctions and having these shadow operations is actually irreplaceable. So what Trump is doing is really devastating for Russia. I don't think he's doing it with that intent or that understanding. And Russia has to do plausible deniability because they cannot come out and say, hey, we cannot evade sanctions like this. Give us back what's ours. They have to also play dumb in this situation, which is good for everyone, as far as I can see. And another thing that people don't realize, Russians sanctions on Russian oil prevent Russia from selling oil directly to a lot of countries. However, when they mix it with Venezuelan oil, as they've been doing, as the information just came out, so they fill these tankers partially with Russian oil, and in that state, they were able to sell it to countries that otherwise they could not sell to. And now all of these revenues are cut out for Russia.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you there. I don't think this is intentional helping Ukraine on Trump's part. I think it's coincidental. What I'm hoping happens is that the fact that the U.S. is willing to board Russian tankers will embolden some of the NATO nations to start doing the same thing to shadow fleet tankers that are exiting the Baltic with Russian oil on board.
Yeah.
By the way, these tankers are costing, the insurance for them is costing Russia a lot more money from a lot of these sanctions. And so it's becoming very unprofitable for Russia to use the shadow fleet, whatever is left. But
All the better.
Well, and if Ukraine can continue to keep striking at it, which I have no doubt is high on their priority list, it could in my view, could be kind of a tipping point for
That's
the entire
something
operation.
that we haven't talked about that's related here is a number of shadow fleet tankers in the Black Sea have been hit by Ukrainian naval drones.
Yeah.
not
So-
just in the Black Sea, but also in the Mediterranean.
Well, yeah.
But yeah, it's Ukraine is doing absolutely amazing stuff. And mind you, when Ukrainian drones do hit, there's no casualties or anything like that as well. They just go. Sorry, I got lost in there. But yeah, this attack is part of Ukraine's broader strategy to hit Russian logistics and reduce the oil revenues. And these maritime drones that Ukraine uses have become one of Ukraine's most effective tools in the Black Sea and now Mediterranean, allowing Kyiv to strike Russian naval and economic assets far from the front line. So this is very, very impressive.
Agreed.
And every time when Ukraine did this, they made sure that the tankers are empty, so there's no ecological consequences for the environment.
That's a good point. That's a very good point, because this would be some messy stuff. Absolutely. We should do.
I'm sure were Russia attacking other ships, they'd be making a very careful case of trying to avoid ecological damage.
Oh yeah.
Well,
These ships are very, very old, by the way, and there's no maintenance on them. So
No.
what Russia's doing is very, very dangerous for.
Yeah, in fact, some of them are actually ships that were scheduled for scrapping and have been taken to scrappers' yards, and then they're repurchased and put back into operation. That's how old and decrepit they are.
Yeah, it's like driving your kids to school in a Ford Pinto, man. You know,
I'm just going to say
that has a broken transmission.
Okay, there's a fantastic video that came out like just an hour before we started by my friend Kaylin, and it's on these ships, and he actually goes to the Aegean, to Greece, and hunts down these ships, and it's a fantastic documentary. Please watch it. I'm sure you guys know Kaylin. Fantastic video. Please, everyone go watch it. It's exactly this, what we were talking about. And he goes straight to where it's all happening. But yeah, for ecological disasters, it's the countries that are left to clean it up is EU, like Greece, and Russia doesn't care.
Yeah.
The oil spills are happening.
Oh yeah, there's been. Exactly. Should we jump in with a couple of shout outs here? We've got one here on the Shills direct through PayPal, and there's not a username, but there is a PayPal name. And I'm pretty sure this is a moment where I don't use this name and somebody's going to jump in the live chat and say, that was me. And I'm pretty sure I know who it's going to be. But the message is, hoping 2026 will be the year Russia war crumbles. We need another few spider webs. I'll give a boom for that. I believe Zelensky has a few cards up his sleeve yet. Slavie Ukraine. And that was a $25 direct donation through PayPal. Yes, exactly. Hero I'm Slava. Sorry, I talked through that.
The reason Trump can't see any of Zelensky's cards is because the way Trump plays poker, he has all the cards fanned out facing his opponents. The way Zelensky plays poker, all the cards are in his sleeves, and he's just like, poker? Who's playing poker?
Cards. What cards?
Yeah.
Well, if you think bankrupting a casino is so easy, why don't you try it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I want someone to explain to me how in the world you can bankrupt a casino. Only Trump can probably explain that one.
I mean, by the very nature of the business, the casino is simply a money-generating machine.
Yeah.
All you have to do is staff it.
It's a little more complicated than that. But yeah,
you know.
My thinking is he was skimming so much off the top, which they all do in Atlantic City. They're going to be skimming off the top, but he was skimming so much off the top that it just was not tenable. It's like you can even break the law, you can even steal from your own casino, and it can still function. How it's just he knows no limits. He the only boundaries he has is his own. What
for businessmen who fail? It's like W.
Yeah,
like one of the only people during the Texas oil boom whose business went bankrupt.
Yeah,
and he was actually,
Trump has had so many bankruptcies for his failed businesses. These are great businessmen.
Now he found something else to bankrupt, and it's United States.
Yeah.
W actually, I think, broke the record for number of dry wells that his company had drilled in Texas. It was just everything that everywhere where they went, it was like, they're like, oh no, we know there's oil here. They go down there, there's no oil. It's just like,
wow.
W was just, oh my God.
What did W do? Did he have geologists that were from a Trump company?
His company, he had a company, his daddy gave it to him, if I recall. And his job was to reconnoiter new wells, and usually ones where they had actually found some oil. So you had to figure out prove how much oil there actually was. And every time his company drilled, they couldn't find the oil that had been previously found in that location. It was just sort of like, what he just, I think they found in like 10 or 15 years, they found one well, but he also really never came into work. So it's sort of like, who knows who was actually doing, I don't, it was just his company became synonymous with basically, if you had a well that was running and you wanted to wipe it out, you brought his team in. That was it.
Put him in charge of an IndyCar team and he hires Ray Charles, right? You know?
Yep.
I imagine Trump as like Liam Neeson is this movie Taken, as he calls this businessman, and he said, I have a particular set of skills. And I can do something that nobody else can do. I can bankrupt your casino.
Any business.
Why Trump? I think why he became president. It's because to be the most powerful person. Yeah, and to get stuff from other world leaders. Like he gets like gold bricks with his name on it from like Qatar. I mean, Qatar wanted to give him a plane.
Yeah.
So he's in for personal enrichment.
It's fully the grift. Totally.
Yeah, there's a video of like a comparison of all the presidents, the recent presidents who made money. And it's like 3 solo cups. And then there's Trump, who made how much money during his presidency already. And it's like up to the ceiling with all these like red cups.
So the report that I've seen, they compiled in the last 100 years, all the presidents who made money. Trump made 75 times more of that than all of the presidents in the last 100 years. Isn't that crazy?
Put together.
Yeah.
Well, isn't that why you become president?
That's not funny, but it is.
I know. That's the mindset of the man.
Yeah. Oh, shout outs. I have a couple more to do, actually. So Lindsay had started us off in the super chat column there with knowledge makes you whole. And it's a sentiment I couldn't agree more with. And I hope that every time Americans are forced or faced with an election situation, they remember those very words. Be knowledgeable. Don't vote based on the anger of social media. Look what happened. Is
that whole with or without the W?
With. Yeah.
Asking for a friend.
Yeah. With. But you know, I can understand the confusion there, especially right now. Eli Lassetti came in with a super chat as well. If I remember, it was going to China, and I think this goes back to right.
Oil, yeah, I saw that one.
Yeah, Trumpy needs boats, you know. So,
well, it's part of the BRICS, not triangle, but quadrilateral.
Yeah. And then Niles Knudsen came in and gifted out 10 Shills memberships. All right. Thanks, Niles. Love the gifted memberships around here because it just brings more friends into the family. Thank you so much. And thank everybody for supporting and stuff. Absolutely. Where to next, Slavie?
Yeah, well, let's talk about the Paris summit. So President Zelensky met with more than 30 allied leaders in Paris to lock in long-term security guarantees for Ukraine as ceasefire negotiations with Russia continue. The meeting included European heads of government, senior NATO and EU officials, Canada, and U.S. delegation led by envoys Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner. Zelensky said the talks were substantive and marked real progress toward a unified security framework for Ukraine. For the first time, the United States agreed to support broad security guarantees and committed to leading an international mechanism that would monitor any future ceasefire. European partners signaled they are ready to join that monitoring mission on the ground once a ceasefire is in place. France and Britain signed a new declaration with Ukraine committing to deploy troops inside Ukraine after a ceasefire, of course, with France indicating that several thousand personnel could be part of the mission. The declaration also includes plans to establish military hubs inside Ukraine for training, logistics, and equipment support. Overall, the meeting went well, but I mean, Russia doesn't want to stop, so I don't know what ceasefire they're talking about.
Yeah.
And Russia needs to be put on much, much more pressure. So, yeah, I mean, I trust Zelensky. He said it was a great meeting, but security guarantees. I don't think Ukraine would ever go for anything.
This begs a question, which is, are we going to see the war end with a ceasefire with forces, in place? Or are we going to see the war end when one of, most likely, the Russian army simply collapses and ceases to be effective as a military force? And in both cases, yeah, you're going to need some sort of security guarantees for Ukraine. But in the latter case, in other words, if the Russian military collapses in the field, which to my thinking is increasingly likely, though when that will occur, I don't want to speculate. I don't really have a good feel for that. But do you still need the same level of support in that case?
I'm going to say, I don't think Zelensky has any intention of having a ceasefire. And the principal reason is because he already knows that there are no conditions for a ceasefire that are equitable in any way whatsoever that Russia would accept.
Agreed.
So I think he's going through the motions because people expect him to do that and to be honest about it. And he is being honest in as much as if there was a fair and genuine ceasefire that said we freeze everything, nobody goes forward, nobody signs any agreements of keeping land or any BS like that. We just stop the shooting today and let things settle, and no armies have to, Ukraine doesn't have to disarm. We don't have to. It's just a genuine ceasefire. I think he'd go for that, but he knows that that's not going to happen. Yeah. So he's going through the motions. Putin is going through the motions, and it's just until. Yeah, I think they're both.
Yeah, Vladimir Putin is never going to have anything but a win.
Yeah, we haven't even entered into a point where there are negotiations taking place. You haven't had any of that occurring yet, because typically with the Russian slant Chinese authoritarian side, you end up with almost a minimum of a year's worth of arguing over things like, what color the tablecloth will be at the negotiating table, and will it be a round table or a square table, and nonsense like that. They aren't even at that stage. They're at the stage where they sit there and glower at each other and say, we're not changing our demands, and everybody goes home after that.
Commander Macmillan, I'm actually glad that you brought up of how the war could end, and because Zelensky actually said because the war could end in the first half of 2026. He cited progress in the ongoing peace negotiations. He described the latest round of these talks as reaching a new milestone, with allies agreeing on substantive security guarantees for Ukraine. And Zelensky emphasized that these guarantees form the foundation of any future peace agreement and are essential for preventing another Russian attack. He noted that the negotiations have advanced significantly due to coordinated U.S. mediation and the involvement of key European partners. He stressed that the timeline for ending the war ultimately depends on whether Russia shows genuine intent to stop hostilities, which we know they won't. Or at least it doesn't look like
I think
how.
the precondition for Russia to actually come to a table to negotiate in good faith is that the army starts to collapse in the field. When they're no longer able to mount an effective defense, that's when they will have no choice, they being the Russians, will have no choice of going to a negotiating table and trying to stop things before it ends up with a total regime collapse. And if you look at Russian history, that's kind of the way things go with them. The Russo-Japanese War. They're on the verge of collapse. That's why they agreed to end that fight. World War I, you get the collapse of the regime with the communist revolution and so on. That's, I think, what we're looking at.
Yeah.
I'm still stuck on the words Jared Kushner and substantive improvement in the same sentence. I don't know how a sentence gets constructed that way, but all right.
I think, Zelensky's charisma does have effects even on the morons, because,
Well, especially on the morons, I would assume.
Yeah.
Basically, Jared Kushner is so incompetent that probably being within a 5-mile radius of Zelensky, he's already starting to become a bit of a better human being. And then when you put him in the room with Zelensky, it's like Jared Kushner actually probably has some charisma, just 5 or 10
point IQ jump, just by being in the room.
And it's just by proxy. As soon as you take him away from Zelensky, Jared Kushner goes right. I don't think he actually retains any of it, but I will bet you Jared Kushner is actually a better person around him. Yeah.
I think it's like gravity, Nick. It's the square of the distance, right? You know?
Inverse square law. That's exactly right.
Speaking about Paris summit, I totally agree with Nick and Commander. Putin is not there, he's not present, and he's an essential part to achieve any kind of ceasefire. He's not doing that right now because for whatever reason, he thinks they're winning. But we do have some breakthroughs because France and UK signed agreements that they will deploy troops in Ukraine.
That's huge.
Of course, it's after the ceasefire, which we know it's not going to happen. But in rhetoric, that's a great breakthrough. We never had that before. And it's good because Russians get to hear this, Americans get to hear this. For the world to hear something like that, that's something we didn't have before. And to me, that's a positive thing that came out of this.
I don't know. I'm pretty sure in every European speech we've heard this before. This is like nothing really new. They're great at making speeches and promises, but it's after a ceasefire. If progress would be made, it would be now. It would be yesterday, like Zelensky said as well in his recent interview, that it needs to be like this stuff. They need to be forces or help or training yesterday.
I would like to point out something, and this is my interpretation of what Commander said, and since he's here, he can clarify for me and expand if I don't have it quite accurately. But my understanding of what he said, one of the reasons this is so significant is it's the first time that we're seeing put to paper an agreement for what happens when this ends. And we still have no idea when that's going to be, but an agreement that there will be security guarantees when this ends. And nobody's been willing to do that till now.
It's almost like they figured out the secret recipe. Sounds strange to say it that way, but the demand from Russia is that Ukraine cannot become part of NATO. Doesn't say anything about Ukraine not having independent individual treaties with other NATO members.
Oh.
I've been thinking about that for a long time, that Ukraine and other countries need to make a new treaty, a new alliance that's not NATO, but with NATO countries and with Canada and Australia, New Zealand, the West, basically.
It's the FRA. The FRA, the Fuck Russia Alliance.
I don't know. Ukraine would lead the way. Poland and Eastern European countries mostly that know what
EETO, Eastern European Treaty Organization.
Yeah. Well, there is Intermarium. There was this idea as well. I don't know if you guys have heard of it. And this is basically it's a treaty of Eastern European countries coming together and making a new superpower.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Well, so for me, the fact that anybody is genuinely and honestly talking about what commitments they would have after this is over is the first time anybody has said, oh, there is another side of the hill. We may not be there yet, but we can sort of see it and we're starting to think about it. And that they're taking commitments to that seriously, realizing that if they don't, we're just going to end up back here 20 years from now.
Yeah.
Strikes me as a good sign, but that was my interpretation again of what Commander said. And I love just sort of like, I love letting him talk. And then it's just like, well, let me tell you how it is. And then I get to repeat it as if I had known the whole time.
Yeah, you can use reiteration to sound intelligent. Right?
Exactly. That's the only way I get away with it.
I would also say that the European continent needs Ukraine the most, basically, especially right now with threats coming from Russia, United States, because Ukraine is the biggest army on the continent. It is the most battle-tested army right now. And they have the tech, they're doing incredible stuff. So most likely it would be Europe coming to Ukraine asking for security guarantees soon.
Yeah.
And also,
it's interesting that in the interwar years between World War I and World War II, there was a effort made to try to set up something called the Little Entente. And the idea was it was a alliance of smaller states, and I believe it was Hungary, Romania, Czechoslovakia, might have had Poland in there, I'm not sure. But the alliance of these smaller states would form a bloc that would keep both Germany and Russia in check. The alliance never came to anything because of too many feuds over, really minor border adjustments post World War I between those nations. But it was a concept that was as valid then as in many ways it is today. So I think it's interesting that people are starting to think that might be something that possibly would get looked into.
Yeah.
the message of UK and French troops in Ukraine are particularly embarrassing for Russia. Because Russia stated time and time again, no international troops in Ukraine. We will see them as targets. We will attack them. We will destroy them. And Europeans would listen to that. They would not pause probability of that happening. Nobody would ever say that. And the fact that this has been signed at the Paris summits right now, that means that Russia is losing its grip. It's not as scary. It's not as formidable. It's not something that we have to necessarily follow as a red line and do what Russia says. So to me, that's like a silver lining in all of this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I've heard that Russia's going to double the number of rubber bands on its T-72 tanks. So you need to watch it.
Wait, what tanks? They have cavalry now.
The donkey. That's right. They're riding on the donkeys.
They're on horses. There's actually a video of on horseback, an orc putting up Starlink on a horseback.
Yeah.
And the North Korean troops eat from the backside of the horse.
Scooter cavalry, and they're really pushing the edge there.
Yeah.
Like said that the Norks eat ass, horse ass.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly, man. I can just imagine the theme song to Bonanza, and there's a couple of them riding a horse. Oh God.
Well,
A couple of shout outs I'd like to get in here. Crazy Cat in the chat there, sending in a direct donation through PayPal. Good message here, too. Moscow is descending into chaos and total collapses of infrastructure are occurring. Roads are getting blocked. Airports have stopped flights here and there and everywhere with heavy snows and stuff. Protests are starting to happen as people are simply fed up. Now would be a good time to hit the power stations. Wink, wink. Slavie Ukraine. Heroam Slava. Great one, Crazy Cat. Thank you so much. Awesome.
All right. Question: are we switching the the streams? To
No,
end the
I
hour?
I left it as one again. I just trying to do a balance to see, do a couple and see, right?
Great.
A couple of more shout outs actually, because a couple just came in. I noticed I missed one over on the other side too, but Stephen Walsh came in with a huge one, $100 direct PayPal donation into the funds. Huge, Steve. Thank you so much. He says, the Exxon Valdez disaster. One of my high school teachers lost his fishing business because of that. Black blood of the earth, oil, causes global turmoil. Ukraine, the lead to get past this historical dogma and get us to the next beautiful phase of how the best of us should be truly thinking. Slavie Ukraine. Heroam Slava. That's
Slava.
awesome. Hey, thank you so much, Steve. Huge shout as always. Steve doesn't fuck around, man. When he drops, he drops. And Yvonne Way threw in a super cool super sticker there as well with the little pear guy doing a little laid back action. How you doing? Doing great, Yvonne. Thank you so much indeed. And Yvonne also had a message in the super chat column there as well. And it's the only message you really need to send, isn't it? Slavie Ukraine. Heroam Slava. All right. We are caught up over here, I do believe. Yes, we are. All right.
All right. Well, let's get into the juice, the parts that everyone's been talking about this week. And it's Trump's next threats after Venezuela.
Yeah.
So after the U.S. operation that captured Nicolas Maduro, Trump escalated warnings towards several countries, framing this approach as new Monroe Doctrine, a play on the Monroe Doctrine, asserting U.S. dominance in the Western Hemisphere. Trump wanted Colombia to watch his ass, accusing country of failing to stop drug flows into the United States. He signaled pressure on Cuba, trying to future policy to regime change and demanding political concessions from Havana. He targeted Mexico, saying U.S. action against cartels remains on the table if Mexico does not intensify its own operations. He also referenced Nigeria, implying that U.S. interests in African energy and minerals could justify intervention if American access is threatened. He issued warnings towards Iran, saying U.S. would strike Iranian targets if protests inside the country turn deadly or if Tehran escalates regional tensions. By the way, we will talk about this more coming up, and there has been people that unfortunately died in these protests. But Trump also canceled additional strikes on Venezuela after the interim authorities began cooperating with U.S. demands, but he said American oversight of Venezuela's oil sector could last for years. Analysts say that these statements reflect a broader shift towards aggressive U.S. enforcement in regions tied to energy, shipping, and security interests. Critics warn that the threat could strain diplomatic relations and raise concerns among allies about the scope of U.S. intervention. And also, Trump, the big story is Trump renewed his push for U.S. control of Greenland, arguing that the island is now one of the most strategically important locations in the world. He said Greenland's position in the Arctic is essential for countering Russian and Chinese naval activity, especially in the GI-UK gap, the corridor between Greenland, Iceland, and the United Kingdom that controls submarine and shipping access to the North Atlantic. Trump argued that Denmark cannot adequately secure Greenland and that U.S. control is absolute necessity for national defense. He said the U.S. needs direct authority over Greenland to monitor Russian submarine movements, track Chinese Arctic expansion, and protect new sea routes opening due to melting ice. He also acknowledged Greenland's rare earth elements, of course, including lithium and other critical minerals, but downplayed them as secondary to the national security.
Secondary, of course, yeah.
Right. We do have a map of why Trump wants Greenland. And guess let's chat about this, because a lot of stuff doesn't add up, because United States has bases in Greenland already.
Yeah.
And American companies and oil they
To emphasize that bases, plural.
Yeah.
Yep.
And at least one of them, the first one that we have, which I think is the largest, we have a deal whereby we can expand it as much as we like. We only need to give them 30 or 60 days notice, something like that, before we start expanding. So technically, we could actually expand it over the entire country. I haven't said that very often because I don't want to give Trump any ideas, but it's a big enough. I mean, we can, as much as we need, they've already been good enough to give us. It's a little, it's more than a little shocking and extremely depressing.
Yeah, there's absolutely no need to do any of this, even though, like, when the map that we showed, it does show that all the trade routes, important strategic routes, go through Canada, Denmark, Greenland. Russia is interested in those routes. China is interested in those routes. They need them, actually. But who has those routes? United States has those routes, because Denmark is our ally. We're NATO. Canada is our ally, right?
Yep.
Also NATO. We are there. We have bases. We have everything, the presence, the agreements signed, open-ended agreements with all these countries. There's absolutely no need to escalate like this.
I agree.
Yeah.
I saw Commander nodding when the rare earths got mentioned, and I think the rare earths are probably really the biggest driving this. There was
That's the main reason he's interested in the place.
Yeah.
We've discovered that there's a good deal. There's a high concentration of rare earths there. Rare earths are not like other minerals. You don't find them in veins. You actually have to literally
sift them out.
You have to destroy the entire land to get to them. So you have to blow it all up and then sift through it. So you have to tear down entire mountain ranges. You destroy the entire ecology of the region in order to get the rare earth minerals out. And we can do that to, assuming we have, and I don't know how much the U.S. has, but let's assume that the U.S. had a number of deposits somewhere that were reasonably rich. We'd still much rather blow up somebody else's land and strip mine it. That was the word I was looking for. You have to strip mine the entire thing, really, to get them. So the problem isn't, and that's what we want to do to Ukraine too. That was the whole point well, we'd do these security guarantees because we can strip mine Ukraine and utterly obliterate it. That was one of the original deals when Trump first started talking about how we could come in and help, and that was a while back. But nonetheless, nobody wants to mine for rare earths because the process is so destructive to the environment. Nobody wants to do it on their land, and understandably why. So we're going to do it in Greenland.
Yeah.
Oh, it's just a giant glacier. Who cares? Nobody lives there.
Can we pull up the map of that I sent you? And this map argues why Russia cannot have Greenland, and because it's actually very, very close, and where its naval bases. Oh, it has to go. Oh no, I can't pull it up.
Yeah, see, like that's not that far.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, it gets confusing for people because they tend to think with the Mercator projection east-west, the reality is the big threat from Russia for the US and Canada is coming across the pole because it's a much shorter distance that way.
I mean, for security guarantees, I'm not mad at that. It's just how he's going on about it is all wrong.
The security aspect of Greenland, honestly, is a smokescreen. It's a cover for what he really wants, which is the mining rights.
And the security guarantee.
We don't want Russia or China having them either. So, like, again, I don't mind it. whatever he wants. It's just how he's going about it is, I mean, as
Awful.
long as Russia gets nothing here is great. I think it's a win for everyone. It's for humanity, but how he's going on about it is how Russia goes on about
Yeah.
things.
What troubles me the most is how often Pete Hegseth likes to come out and talk about how we are the strongest, most powerful military in the world. And indeed, as Commander pointed out, I'll point it out from a different perspective.
Huge.
We spend, our defense budget is greater than the defense budget of the next 26 countries combined. Next 26, that includes China, that includes Russia, that's all of them. Our defense budget exceeds all of that, and most of those previous 26, I think 21 of them are allies. So,
and he's increasing it too, to like
Yep. And so now all of a sudden we have to attack our. Listen, if it was an existential threat, if the United States was about to get wiped out and we're like, listen, this territory that belongs to our allies, we don't want to take it. But if we don't take it, we're going to get wiped out. Decisions do get made like that during wartime. Mm-hmm. This is not wartime. Russia is not posing a significant threat on a military level like that. They are posing threats.
It's what we did in World War II with Iceland. Iceland was critical for the Battle of the Atlantic, keeping the U-boats from completely cutting off all supply to Britain. So we just kind of moved in.
Yeah.
And Russia is the weakest. It has proved it's the weakest superpower. They can't win for 4 years against Ukraine, much smaller nation. So Russia is actually the weakest link here between China, America, and we haven't seen China invade Taiwan, but it looks like we are going for the multipolar world. And Trump America is the only nation who can get things done, and that's scary that Trump is using this power for the wrong things.
And he's destroying U.S. soft power, which is a problem because other countries like China and Russia have a pretty good knowledge of how to use that kind of power and have done so effectively. So our soft power dropping to zero, and this reliance on fuck around and find out, this reliance on we just have this military that's going to blow you away if it soft don't ever underestimate soft but they don't care. There's that kind of nuance does not exist in this country anymore. It's terrifying.
That's a great point. And we brought it up on this stream. USAID, our soft power, it was so important.
Oh, yes, it was.
So many good things for us in any respect. Like Slavie just said, Trump said, we're losing touch with Nigeria. What about USAID? We had a foot in the door there just recently. You destroyed that. That's what USAID was for, and now you have to threaten them with military intervention because of the things that you did, destroying the soft power.
Yep.
Because in Trump's world, and remember, we're talking real estate development, business, it's all adversarial. You don't make deals by being nice to your partner in his mind.
Yeah, making deals is done by the hand of the bully.
Right. And everything for him was, if you don't do this, I'm going to sue you into oblivion. So it's not surprising that one of the first things he did once he got in was start dismantling all of the soft power agencies that we had.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because he's too blanking ignorant to understand how really powerful that kind of soft power was.
Yeah.
And what makes my blood boil a little bit about this is they destroyed USAID under the pretense that we don't have money for it, that we're going to save money. And what happened the next day, Russia announced Rus ID. Russia is obviously, they obviously have money for this, right? Are they richer than us? No, they just understand how important it is. The impact that it has, it's invaluable. It could not be measured in money.
Yeah.
As somebody said here in this chat stream, as Sarah said, and Trump has no idea how to do diplomacy. He doesn't. To him, everything is a transactional relationship. You give me something and I give you something. Or in his case, more often, it's I threaten and crush you with legal action. And the legal action, when you translate it into international diplomacy, is military action.
Yeah.
Now, Commander Macmillan, I'm wondering, so U.S. can achieve all strategic goals, defense, surveillance, mineral access, and Arctic presence without needing sovereignty and making the push kind of unnecessary and provocative. I wonder if the people that Trump has around him, the morons, are telling him otherwise.
I think so. I think a lot of what's going on is Trump and his backers, the Heritage Foundation, the shadow oligarchy in the US, they are far more interested in securing more opportunity for them to get wealthy. And so that's why you see so much focus on places where there are alleged to be rare earth mineral deposits that they can exploit. That's why so much pressure is being applied to those places. Whereas things like, positive relationships with our allies in Europe or in the Far East, those are being allowed to atrophy. Or in some cases, they're actively trying to undermine them because to them, that isn't making them rich. So it's not important in the context of the world.
Well, that brings me to a question. Actually, this guy, I think he's a troll. You guys may want to look into Titan. I can't read the last name. I can't make it out. I don't have my glasses on. But he asked a question about uranium in Greenland, and I think that's a good question, especially since I don't. If I recall, the U.S. is the only country that still uses DU. Depleted uranium ammunition because it gets so toxic when it gets like wet and rusts out. Do you think right now I think it's illegal to mine almost all of it in Greenland because of the environmental hazard? But if the U.S. were to take it over, do you think that uranium is playing any significant part in this, or
not? Really, I think if it were, you'd see a lot more focus on Africa, sub-Saharan Africa. Those are the areas where lots of uranium deposits are known to exist. And people are kind of...
I hope he's not watching.
Yeah, and to them, it's not that important. I think everything is razor focused on anything that ties into the computing, AI, high-tech stuff. So the rare earth metals, not necessarily uranium. I don't think they see, nuclear power is that big an issue. And part of it, I think, is because the other side of that power block are the petro oligarchs.
Right.
And they want to keep everything still operating on petroleum products.
Yeah, right to the end.
Let me ask you another question then, because this was a biggie thing, and you had mentioned this earlier when you and I were talking, which was that Trump seems to want to make a lot of money off of Venezuela. He wants to make money off of their oil. He wants the U.S. to go in there, rebuild everything, and it's going to be a vassal of the U.S. Having said that, he has now met with all of the major oil companies, and they've all said investment in Venezuela is virtually impossible. It would take them so much time to actually get the equipment up and running. Even if they had that time, which can't be guaranteed because there could be revolutions, there's going to be a new presidency that may just, they don't want to lose that investment. But even if they get that up and running, it's all the worst quality oil that you can get. So the profit margins already are below what would be profitable. They'd actually have to spend money to sell you the oil instead of actually making money off of it.
Yeah.
How do you think this is going to influence Trump, if at all, given that this is now what he's being told by U.S. oil companies?
I did read an analysis that said it's not really about getting in there and getting the oil. It's about blocking it, blocking the oil sales, and like so there would be like an American blockade set up.
I don't think it needs to be a blockade. It's just a don't let them export oil. And if you've got a cooperative government, they don't sell oil to anybody unless the U.S. gets its cut. And I guarantee you that's part of that equation.
By
And
the
when I
way,
say the U.S., I mean not necessarily the U.S. government.
Yeah.
Mhm.
there's a lot of drama with the actual lead that's supposed to be the leader of Venezuela that was voted in with Corina Machado, who is exiled. And so Trump is not wanting to bring her back in. Um, who the people of Venezuela want. She's very much loved, and but she's the one that also got the Nobel Peace Prize.
Yeah.
And not apparently, it's happening. Trump doesn't want to bring her in because he is extremely pissed at her for not giving the Nobel Peace Prize to him.
Yeah. She
Which
should have
she did.
declined it.
She did dedicate it to him, but they
She's
have
a
a
woman.
meeting
We
coming
hate
up.
women who are in power positions.
Yeah.
That's where you got to start. He's a misogynist of the first order.
Yeah.
Real.
But Rodriguez, who accepted power, she's a woman, and that's the one who he wants. She's the leader of Maduro's regime. She's Maduro's supporter. I don't think he wants a democratic change in Venezuela. That's not his goal. He just wants a strong government dictatorship that he can make deals with and sell oil and profit.
Yeah.
Look at the recently published U.S. national security strategy.
Yeah, we own it.
Exactly says democracies are our enemy.
Yeah.
He does not want democratic reform in Venezuela. He wants a totalitarian regime, just one that is subservient to his demands.
Exactly.
That's what Putin likes as well. All these dictators, they like to deal with other dictatorship. They want one strong man that they can make deals with, kind of bypass the democracy, bypass any kind of law, any kind of regulation, and just make money. And that's what he understands. Trump, that's why he likes Putin so much. He likes all these dictators. This is exactly what he's doing. He's very predictable in that respect.
Why he's so actively trying to convert the U.S. into a dictatorship.
Yeah. 100%.
Why should I be answerable to all these little people? I should be able to do what I want. I mean, his statement recently about, what's to prevent you from doing this again to other countries. Oh, it's just my own morality and my own good feelings. That's what will, hold me back. Basically saying I can do whatever I damn well feel like.
Yeah.
He did say it's his morality that can stop him, but
Yeah.
he has none.
He has none. Exactly.
Him having morality is kind of an oxymoron. Let's be honest.
A couple of questions here from viewers. Sarah in the chat there asked, can the U.S. economy afford to do what they want? These, the leadership here, like the economy is suffering already. They're talking $100 billion, blah, blah.
Who's making profits?
Yeah.
That's all that matters.
Exactly.
The fact that your family may be put out of your home, can't afford groceries, anything like that, has to make a choice between, keeping the roof over your head or paying for grandma's medical bills. That doesn't matter to them in the least.
Exactly.
It's all about what the billionaire class get to do.
Yeah. And then we have Sleet coming in and, with a question here as well. Sleet says, I watched Trump's meeting with the key oil personnel there regarding Venezuelan oil. Assuming it is all a grift, how does it totally work out? Well, we did kind of get to that. I think we half answered that question, but somebody else in the live chat had also pointed out that there could be some lithium on the mine due to
there's a ridge. I can't remember the name of it, but there's this big long ridge in the interior of Venezuela.
Yeah.
And that area is estimated to have substantial rare earth deposits. And we know from comments he has made that Trump is very interested in securing the mineral rights to that area.
Mhm.
Not for the US, for him and his billionaire buddies.
Yeah.
Well, it's for the
And
U.S., but
understand,
he'll keep an eye on it.
It's not that they're going to exploit it. They just want the rights.
Yeah.
That way, they don't take any of the risk on. The risk is taken by whoever the company that's developing those potential sites.
That's right.
They take risk on. I just hold a piece of paper and I lease it to you, and I'm making money hand over fist for doing absolutely nothing.
It's kind of similar to the mineral deal that Trump wanted to do with Ukraine.
100%.
Towards the end, I don't think that's exactly what he got, because that deal is actually good. But I mean, it's a race now. Now the biggest thing is who gets minerals, and these superpowers are moving in for these minerals on least.
I keep flashing on the movie Dune. He who controls the spice controls.
Yeah.
Yeah,
First of all, in this case, it's he who controls the lithium controls the world.
Yeah.
exactly.
Is lithium that important? Is that all we're going to talk
I'm
about?
using lithium as a stand-in. There's so many others.
Yeah.
Lithium is a big one, though. It's
Yes,
it's because it's used in batteries,
Not the
it's
only
used in medicine. It is the same lithium. It's the exact same lithium that people take for antidepressants, which has been causing a problem because eventually you process that and then that lithium goes into the water supply. But it's used in high-end technological stuff. There's a lot of
All our tech that we
Lithium's
have,
cool.
like it's lithium, it's batteries. Also, Ukraine has largest lithium deposit.
Yeah.
It's not built yet, but that's what kind of the billionaires, the countries want is the lithium. It's like it's what Elon Musk needs, and these billionaires are looking for it.
Oh yeah.
And we can't make it on our own, so it's not something that we can make. It's
Right.
something we have to pull out. So right now there's no alternative for lithium-ion batteries or for, again, the medicinal use, which people forget. But the number of people now taking lithium actually is having a significant impact on the global supply of it.
Yeah.
So China is looking for lithium. So there is a race to get to countries to get this lithium, because China, I mean, they need it if they want to win in this.
That's one of the reasons
race.
raised focused on developing the road and belt aspect of their economic policy, their colonial policy, if you will, in sub-Saharan Africa, because for a long time, those were some of the areas that were known to have the best lithium deposits.
Well, let's keep going, because actually for Ukraine, this Maduro capture works out as long as the United States keeps capturing those ships and doing the right thing. It's not so bad now. But Russia's friendly nations are cracking down, because Iran is now facing its largest anti-regime uprising since 2022, with protests spreading to more than 220 locations across nearly every province. The unrest began in late December 2025 and escalated due to economic collapse, currency freefall, soaring prices, and nationwide blackouts. At least 19 people have been killed and nearly 1,000 arrested, according to early reporting. Protesters are openly calling for the overthrow of the mullah leader Ali Khamenei and demanding the return of exiled in LA, by the way, the Crown Prince Reza Pahlavi. Demonstrations have turned violent in multiple cities as security forces lose control of key neighborhoods. There was a huge internet outage that Iran experienced, a near total nationwide internet shutdown, one of the most severe since 2019 and 2022. Connectivity dropped by 70 to 90% in several provinces, with some regions going completely dark for hours. The blackout hit mobile data, broadband, banking systems, messaging apps, and VPN access, effectively isolating the entire cities. The regime ordered the shutdown to block protests, videos going out into the world, to disrupt coordination of this protest, and to slow the spread of demonstrations. But despite this blackout, Starlink terminals inside Iran stayed online because many were smuggled into the country over past year. The Starlink connections were heavily disrupted, but not fully disabled, allowing protesters and underground networks to leak videos and maintain limited communication with the world. Israeli officials reportedly contacted Starlink to confirm whether terminals were active during the blackout, indicating foreign monitoring of the situation. Of course, Israel is watching. The regime attempted to jam satellite signals but could not fully block Starlink's uplinks. This blackout backfired in several regions, triggering an even larger protest as people saw the shutdown as a sign the regime was losing control. So this looks very good. This could be it, that the mullahs are now talking about escaping to Russia. The Ayatollah guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you think? Do you guys think this is it?
Starting in late December, U.S. C-17 and C-5 transport aircraft were staging through England to the Middle East. And these are transport aircraft, and they're carrying things like advanced helicopters and communication suites and such, all stuff associated with special forces operators. Many of these aircraft are known to have landed in Doha, Qatar. And if you look at the map, how far is Qatar from Iran?
Hop, skip, jump.
That's close. I mean,
So
Trump did warn Iran.
I keep thinking we're looking at some sort of U.S. action against Iran if this thing continues to try to push the unbalanced regime over the edge. Maybe in the next week or two would be my guess.
Oh.
My understanding, and please correct me if I'm wrong, is that the Revolutionary Guard is so well trained, so idealistic, and so prepared for this that unless the U.S. intervenes, even as large as these are, they will not likely topple the Ayatollah. They've got a large number of underground structures, and a huge Republican Guard that they really can trust with their lives, and who's willing to murder anybody who gets anywhere near them. So
yeah. The key thing to understand, the Republican Guard includes a couple of different elements. So it's not really as large as you might think. The Republican Guard, or the Passandaran, are, I think, about 120,000 strong, but below that are what would be considered by many their reserve organization, which is the Basij, or BASIJ. They're like militia, and they're controlled officially by the Republican Guard, but their officers and such come from local militia organizations.
Oh, okay.
I do have a report that's indicating defections among the police and this Basij units, and some defections allegedly that were encouraged by Mossad, of course.
Yep.
So,
and that's the key, is that if the Basij, who are, according to some accounts, as large as 500,000 people in the Basij. Yeah, big. They're not particularly well trained or well equipped. These were the guys that during the Iran-Iraq War were the ones who were sent in these giant human wave attacks out of the trenches, very reminiscent of like World War I. and they died in the tens of thousands doing this. As long as they still remain under the control of and loyal to the Republican Guard, then the likelihood of the regime toppling is very small. But if you start seeing defections from the Basij, then there's a chance that it might happen. The other force that needs to be reckoned with, which is separate from all that, is the Artesh, which is the regular army. They're not part of the Republican Guard. And indeed, there's a great deal of enmity between the Republican Guards and the regular army.
Ooh.
So there's a possibility that if the momentum gets going strong enough, the armies may say, enough of this crap. We're tired of you killing all our families and such, and they start pushing back. And the army is arguably better equipped than the Republican Guard Pasandran units.
There was on this right here, Commander. There's a question from Titan Uranus in the live chat there. Hey, Titan. What would the U.S. hit in Iran? Like, how do they even pick a target there?
Yeah, that's really a good question. I mean, because you have to be careful. You don't want to alienate potential organizations that might have the possibility of going anti-regime. So if you're going to hit Iran, you know, it's like, do we hit the air base? Well, who owns and runs the air base? Is it the regular Air Force, or it is the aviation elements of the Republican Guard? Do we hit that building that we know is a headquarters for the Republican Guard? Well, then you find out that in there is also the headquarters of the local Basij group, who may be alienated by the Republicans. So it's a very, very tricky targeting package that you come up with. So that's why, I mean, if you're going to send in special forces to find elements that you know are already anti-regime and support, then train and equip them against the regime, that might be something that would be profitable, if you will.
Commander Macmillan, do you think there might be a kind of Venezuela-style intervention by U.S. by taking this Ayatollah guy, Mullah?
Yeah, it would not surprise me if something like that's attempted. The difference, and I think I pointed this out when we talked last, Dick, was that when the operation to seize Maduro went in, they'd had months to practice and rehearse on carefully constructed dummy, palaces that they were going to be attacking. So they knew exactly where to go, how to do it.
Step counts and everything, right? Yeah.
Oh, yeah, exactly. But in this case, if you're going into Iran, how much time have they had to prepare for doing this? It's only been going, 12, 13 days right now. They haven't had time to do all that rehearsal. So it's a very risky operation. I know, Hollywood likes to present special forces guys as, just short of being Superman and able to fly and have X-ray vision and such. The reality is much different. They're very good because they drill and practice and plan a lot on any operation that they're going to do.
Mm-hmm.
And then hopefully it pays off. What Hollywood doesn't like to publicize, and what the military doesn't like to publicize, is the number of times special forces operators are sent in and the operation goes south real quick.
Right.
Because there was something that they didn't know about. The intel was faulty. They didn't plan for this eventuality and so forth.
Right.
So it's a high risk, high reward kind of operation. So when it works wonderfully. When it doesn't, it's disastrous.
Right.
Well, it seems like the Mossad is working on this too, along with the United States.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So Mossad is known to have lots of operators in Iran. We know they've been passing out these Starlinks. That's being used not only for just getting information out of what's going on, but possibly to be used in guiding drones assuming the Israelis decide to launch airstrikes on something.
Yeah. There was a follow-up here, Commander, from Titan Uranus. Is there any chance of this kind of revolutionized thinking and activity and stuff being contagious? Riots and stuff coming up in other countries and, a little infectious thinking on a society level?
Arab Spring 2.0.
Yeah. Yeah, very much. There was one other question here on the same topic. So David N had one. Several days ago, a Strato tanker crossed into Iran's inner outskirts and then boom, off the radar. Don't think it was an error by the sounds of it. So maybe are they already scouting?
Wouldn't surprise me.
Sounds about right.
And yeah, I have to be careful. The aircraft that's a tanker, which is C-135 or KC-135s, there are also versions of that aircraft which are intelligence collection aircraft. So was that a tanker that strayed into the outer edges of Iranian airspace, or was it a intelligence collection aircraft? I can't tell you because I don't know, but the possibility exists.
Sure. Quick shout out here before we switch gears or continue or where Slavie takes us. White Fishy One with a direct Ko-fi donation in here. Another day, another dead orc. Slavie Ukraine. Herom Slava. Great show, White Fishy. Love it. Yeah.
Yeah, I wanted to talk the last part. Why? I mean, if you look at our thumbnail, is Russia's walls are cracking down. So why Iran's collapse is a nightmare for Putin is what I want to kind of close with. So Iran is one of Russia's most critical wartime partners, supplying the Shahed 131 and Shahed 136 drones that Russia uses to strike Ukrainian cities, power plants, and civilian infrastructure.
And let's make sure people understand how many they use. There's a lot of them, right?
Absolutely. I mean, in a day, overnight, they use 300 of these things. And Venezuela is actually involved in this too. So these drones have been responsible for hundreds of Ukrainian deaths, massive blackouts, and billions in damage, making Iran a central pillar of Russia's war machine. Iran didn't just ship drones, it helped Russia build domestic production lines, transferring designs, components, and engineers to Russian territory. Iran also used Venezuela as a covert manufacturing and parts assembly hub, producing components for Shaheds and other systems far from Western oversight. Venezuelan factories protected by Maduro followed Iran and Russia to bypass sanctions, smuggle parts, and keep drone production running even when supply chains were disrupted. With Maduro captured and his regime dismantled, that entire Venezuelan drone parts pipeline has collapsed, cutting off one of the safest and most secretive supply routes Iran and Russia relied on. Now, Iran itself is in crisis with the protests in 220 locations. A destabilized Iran cannot maintain the same level of drone production, smuggling, or military cooperation with Russia. If Iran's regime weakens further, Russia risks losing its primary supplier of cheap, mass-produced attack drones, its partner in building drone factories inside Russia, its Venezuelan-based parts network already disrupted, its sanctions evasion partner as well for oil, weapons, and electronics, its regional ally that helped counter U.S. pressure. Iran's collapse also sends a psychological shockwave through Russia's remaining allies. Maduro begged Moscow for help and got nothing. Iran is now burning and Moscow can't stabilize it. Every partner sees that Putin cannot protect anyone, not even his closest allies. So for Putin, this is catastrophic because his entire wartime strategy depends on a small group of regimes willing to sell him sanctioned goods, provide weapons, move oil, launder money, host covert factories, and challenge the West. Losing Iran and Venezuela at the same time means losing the backbone of his global support system. Without Iranian drones, Venezuelan parts, and oil laundering network, Russia's ability to sustain long-term war against Ukraine becomes dramatically weaker. This is why Iran's collapse is not just a regional crisis, it is a strategic disaster for Putin's entire geopolitical architecture, for his war machine that kills Ukrainians. So I wanted to get this out because everything that we talked about, that I know Trump is doing it and he's not doing it well, but it does help Ukraine and to crush Russia in many ways. Let's hope he keeps doing these things and not turn it around on democratic nations. Let's put it this way. Keep going after the dictators and hopefully Putin one day. So fingers crossed. But so far, it's not totally bad news, despite of how it's being framed in the news. I know, but it's if you look at the bigger picture, it's not bad.
Brad Pauly has a great question that it fits perfectly in right here. Haven't the Russians already reverse engineered the Shahed drones and are producing them themselves? Well, as far as I understand, yes, but I still think for Russia, it's actually easier for them to acquire them than to construct them due to the sanctions and needed parts and stuff.
Listen, they need like what, 300 drones a night. Do you know how much manufacturing that is? And now that the supply routes, the parts have stopped from Venezuela, as I said previously, they can't produce many more of these things.
It's important to understand that, as with any logistical pipeline, it's going to take time for the disruption of both the Venezuelan and Iranian sides to really have an impact at the front. But when it does, it will be noticeable.
Yeah, they're got to be weeks ahead, so you don't feel it right away, right?
Yeah. They'll have stuff stockpiled. They're going to draw down the stockpiles, but the hose filling the stockpile back up, that's either off or severely tightened by now.
Yeah.
And also the Oryashnik hit just shows how much Russia is panicking. I mean, Oryashnik is their last resort, and they're showing how, I guess, vulnerable they are, because when they do the worst, they actually are the weakest.
Yeah.
So.
Well, it's also a weapon that's ill-suited to what they're trying to do. They're using it very specifically as a form of diplomatic communication, if you will.
Okay.
It's not being used in a military role. When you fire one of those Oreshniks and you shoot it at a city that's right near the border with Poland, you're doing that for a reason. You have other ordnance that can reach Lviv from within Russia. You don't need to use an IRBM.
Yeah, that's a special delivery.
Right. The fact that they did tells you a lot about what the goal was.
Well, they also just spent 100 million on one of those things. Is actually 100 million.
Yeah.
And it just went to waste, really, because they didn't achieve anything with it.
Yeah.
And it's not really meant for for this, as far as I understand. It's meant for can it be air defense?
No.
Okay.
The Oreshnik is strictly a intermediate range ballistic missile.
It's meant for
you can put a conventional warhead on it, but it's really, the main reason is to carry a nuclear warhead, and it carries it, 1,200 miles or something.
Yeah.
That's what
for huge military targets. That's what it's meant for.
Well, strategic like cities or stuff. I mean, it's a MIRV. It's got I think 6 separate payloads, so you can drop 6 nuclear weapons on 6 different targets pretty far away. And instead of doing that, which would be World War III, so I'm very glad they didn't do that. Instead of doing that, they either used a standard payload, or I guess they must have just had a commander. Were they empty, or did they have at least like a standard explosive payload?
The first one they fired, which was some months ago, was empty. It did not have any warhead in it at all. I don't know about the one that was fired last night.
They said it was empty as well.
Yeah, and again, why are you firing empty missiles?
Very expensive.
It's a message in a bottle, is what it is. It's the best analogy I can come up with.
A very stupid message.
Yeah, but nobody credited the Russians with
It's a blessing and a curse. They're so fucking stupid.
Yeah.
Well, I remember when they did it the first time, that slowed people down a bit, because people were like, okay, they're deploying
big guns,
nuclear missiles without the payload. But that was 6 months ago, and now they've done it again, and everyone's just like, okay, yeah, we've seen this before. This doesn't seem to have phased anyone.
I did see a couple of Ukrainian analysts saying that if Russia keeps sending like one more of Yarochenko for the next month, that Ukraine will get ballistic missiles as well from the United States eventually, and then Russia is fucked.
Yeah,
if they keep acting like this.
I don't think Ukraine's stupid enough to send a ballistic missile to just because, again, it's such a waste.
No, it's deterrence. It's deterrence.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
No.
The only reason we had those kind of missiles like the Pershing was because during the Cold War you could fire a Pershing from our bases in the far west of Germany and engage targets deep inside Russia.
Yeah.
It was used in that kind of a war plan is what it was going to be used for. Taking out Russian air bases that were helping support the grand Warsaw Pact offensive to take over all of Western Europe.
Yeah.
But, Ukraine already has weapons that target deep into Russia. Why do they need to have something like a Pershing? It doesn't really, unless you really want to hit Vladivostok on the far side of the Pacific, why bother?
We got a question that's perfect for right now here. It's from Tridents and Yarochenko, and he says, Titan asks, is it possible there is some non-explosive payload in this thing that just nobody's detected or figured out yet?
I'm assuming he's referring to a biological weapon. A chemical weapon would have been obvious, and we'd know about it if that had been used. So
the impact still produces a pretty significant explosion.
Yeah. You got the whole kinetic thing behind it, right?
I think you'd have a hard time to. I mean, you could do it, I would imagine, but
it flies at supersonic speed. So.
And it's coming down as opposed to a low-level trajectory, so it has a lot of kinetic energy that way. During the Cold War, there was a project they were working on called Rods from God, which was some sort of satellite, and it was literally shooting tungsten rods. Yeah, not particularly big ones, but the amount of speed and kinetic energy they built up by the time they hit the ground, the cratering effect on these things was just unbelievable.
Yeah.
So you could fire one of these, and it was literally just a metal rod. There was no explosives on it at all.
Which is when you think about it, you get the effect of the city killer, but there's no radiation. You can just walk in and do what you got to do after, right?
Yep.
They did measure the radiation after it hit. The Yarochenko hit 2 days ago, and it's fine. Although when it did hit, there was video that the sky lit up in pink, which was really worrisome.
Well, I'm sure that there's unexpended fuel, and when it hits, that'll disperse into the air and it'll cause weird things. Because when I lived in Southern California, there's a missile test range up at Point Hueneme, in kind of north of LA. And when they do test shots of our missiles, the afternoon, evening sky would just light up with some of the weirdest color displays you could imagine everywhere. And it's just because of a tiny amount of fuel as the thing goes up, just dispersing into the atmosphere.
Right.
So, yeah, if this thing landed and there was unexpended fuel on it, that'd get sprayed up into the air and it'd cause all sorts of weird colors.
Yeah.
Plus, Russians will not use nukes. Like, they would have done it by now. They will use it as threats. Oh yeah, every day.
Yeah.
Every
Yeah,
day.
if you end up with a Ukrainian tank column about to enter Moscow or something, yeah, then nukes are back on the table, definitely.
Yeah, in a situation where they feel like it's over, it's done, they're screwed, I think they would just take you out.
Yeah,
But Russians understand that there's only 2 cities you gotta bomb. You don't even need to use like ballistic or whatever. Like a couple of missiles take out Moscow and St. Petersburg, they're done.
Yeah.
And they're so
And
used to
also
it. Like, they understand that it's only these nuke threats. They're only threats. They will not nuke anything. I don't think so.
There's no strategy to go into Russia and attack Moscow, attack St. Petersburg. Ukraine doesn't need that. That's not one of the Ukrainian scenarios for victory. Russia.
I didn't mean to
I
imply
meant it
that
as a response to if Russia would nuke Ukraine, the response would be to send nukes into St. Petersburg and Moscow. I didn't say Ukraine or whoever invading Russia at all. That's not what I meant.
Yeah, but they still have their equivalent. They have their
Like-
equivalent of the nuclear triad. So I think even, I think even a proportionate response would be heavily considered by the nuclear powers because they have the ability to deploy multiple nuclear warheads against any city anywhere in the world at any time they want to, even if you take out Moscow and St. Petersburg.
We're just coming up near 2:00 here, and we got to kick ourselves into our sort of wrap up modes here. I've got my son is about to be home, and as the show's going, I'm getting this feeling I had earlier. I'm not 100% today, so this is a good time for us to before. Yeah, Slavie, you want to take us around and get everybody's thoughts and stuff and so on?
Absolutely. All right. Well, Nick, thank you so much for joining us. Any final thoughts? Any promos?
My pleasure. Thank you so much for having me. My name is Nick Suter. My show is In Time. You can find Commander Lance McMillan there, as well as a number of guests. We're going to be covering primarily what's been going on in the U.S. We also cover Ukraine, but there's been so much in the U.S. right now. We've kind of shifted and leaned a little bit in that direction, but always appreciate the chance for coming on, and it was delightful. So thank you guys. Thank you both so much, and I think that covers it for me.
All right,
Head over to
awesome.
End Time and get subbed, everybody. Links in the live chat.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
By the way, I was on In Time like a couple of weeks ago, so you guys want to
Yes, you were.
check that out as well.
Absolutely.
All right, Johnny, any final thoughts?
Well, 2026 is showing that we're living in a really important time in history. We're about to see, and we are seeing amazing things. Ukraine is in the middle of this as a force for good and kind of like a leader of positive change, which is delightful to see. Of course, it comes with a side of bad news as well. But, we're going to stick around and we're going to see incredible things, I'm so sure. And Ukraine will win and Russia will be defeated.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Great closing. Commander Macmillan, final thoughts?
I suspect that the next week or two is going to have some other exciting special event that we'll all need to talk about. I think that Trump can't let things continue to just coast, because as more and more of the really disgusting details of the Epstein files become apparent, he needs to find a way to distract people.
Yeah.
That aside, I know that here in the U.S. there are going to be protest marches. I think it's important that we want to, try to stop the worst things from happening here and hopefully get ourselves back on track of being a true democracy. We need to participate in those. We also need to, as I say every week, correspond with your elected officials. Make sure that you send them an email or a phone call. Just make sure you get the information through that Ukraine is important to you and you want the U.S. to resume actively supporting Ukraine. Other than that, have a good week.
Well said.
All right. Dick, do you want to close first? Or
Yeah, we'll thank the team over here on the shills. We got Shayna in, we've got Mexi Girl in, Chris Lundy in, Carpazian the AI Alchemist is with us, Jose and Super Chat Matt. And without the team, you got no dream of being on the scene in YouTube. So thank your team and running and treat them well and all that stuff. And a huge thanks to all the donators, supporters, and everybody giving shout outs on social media. Like, share, and subscribe, of course, on the channels that you're watching on here. And as Slavie always says, use your social credibility and make sure you're shouting the channels out to get as much exposure for Ukraine as we can. Slavie Ukraine. What do you think, Slavie?
Heroям Slava.
Heroям Slava.
Yeah, I'm so sorry we didn't get to talk about the shooting of by ICE of Nicole Good. I'm sure you guys have covered it and will cover it extensively on your coming up live streams.
Yes.
Yeah, we've in time's been we've been discussing it when we've gotten a lot of the footage early, which is really good. So
Yeah.
and we're staying on that one.
There's like 30 different camera angles. I don't know how the hell they're still lying about
I know.
what we're actually seeing.
Even the ones released by ICE supposedly
I know.
showing are damning to their cause anyway. It's like they don't understand just how bad this is press-wise for them.
Outright fucking liars. Can I want to give a personal message to every single person in Homeland Security and ICE, and then Slavie's going to take us out.
Today we're making fuck off pie. With 1 cup of no one cares, a dash of kiss my ass, add some fuck yous, a pinch of blow me. You're going to want to stir it all together and shove it up your ass.
Yeah.
Reasonably unambiguous.
I have to think about that one for a little while.
I don't know what it means, sir, but it sounds very negative to me.
So what do you think, Slavie? Take us home.
I just gotta say, any man that calls a woman that he doesn't know a fucking bitch is an unstable man.
Yeah.
One that he just shot in the face, too.
And
But
Yeah.
after he shot her.
Yeah.
Incredibly unstable. But we are living through a moment that feels eerily familiar, a moment when the world is shaking in ways we've only read about before in textbooks, in documentaries, in the stories our grandparents told us. History is not abstract. History is not distant. History is a warning. And right now, it is repeating itself. Authoritarian regimes are cracking, but something even more dangerous is rising, an imperial ambition from a nation already armed with more power than any empire before it, backed by insanity, immorality, and greed. And instead of aiming that power at the enemies who want to destroy us, we're watching it turn inward towards our allies. Let's hope it doesn't happen. But here's what history teaches every generation. When democracies hesitate, empires advance. When free nations argue, tyrants move. And when people stop paying attention, the world changes without their consent. So before we close, I want to thank you to our moderators. Thank you to everyone who donated. Thank you who sent super chats today and gifted memberships. Thank you so much, truly. Everyone who supports and keeps this channel going, thank you for showing up, staying engaged, and refusing to look away. These are frightening times, but fear is not the lesson. The lesson is that we've been here before. And every time the outcome depended on whether ordinary people stayed awake, stayed engaged, and refused to surrender their future. Ukraine is proving that courage still matters. America and Europe must prove it too. So let's be brave like Ukraine. God bless America. Long live Europe, and Slava Ukraine.
Heroam Slava. Take care, everybody. See you next time.